So I do have 9:30, so if I could call this meeting to order. Before we start the election of officers, we do have our land acknowledgement. So we begin this gathering by acknowledging and celebrating these traditional lands as a gathering place of the First Peoples and their ancestors who are entrusted to care for Mother Earth since time immemorial. We do so respecting both the land and the Indigenous people who continue to walk with us through this world. Today, the county is committed to working with Indigenous peoples and all residents to pursue a united path of reconciliation. So at this time, I would like to call for nominations for the office of warden. Councillor Vanderwall. Is there a seconder of that? Okay. Are there any other nominations for warden? Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Lichty. And all those in favor of closing nominations? Councillor Smith, do you accept the nomination of warden?
I do. Sounds like I'm getting married.
So at this point, I would like to ask for nominations for deputy warden. Councillor Leonard.
I'd like to nominate Ron Vanderwall.
And is there a seconder for that? Councillor Fowler. And are there any other nominations for deputy warden? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
I nominate Jerry Lichty.
And is there a seconder for that? Are you seconding that, Councillor Fowler?
I have the right to accept or not accept the nomination. I would like
You
to
do.
not accept it at this round. I thank you, Judy and Fred. I think I'd like to stay with the current experience because we have a brand new CAO on the table or coming up this year. I think next year it's a totally different story, but I'd like to stay with both Fran and Rob. But thank you very much for nominating me.
Are there any other nominations for deputy warden? Seeing none, could I get a motion to close nominations? Councillor Gowdy and Councillor Saunders. And all those in favor of closing nominations? So that's carried. Councillor Vanderwall, do you accept the nomination of deputy warden? Okay, at this point, I would like to turn the floor over to the warden, Warden Smith. Sorry, I did skip the, so you do have to read that.
Fran, can I have your microphone?
Sure you can. I will share with you, Ron, any day, Deputy. I, Frances Smith, having been elected to the office of warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac, do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His Majesty King Charles III, and I make this solemn promise and declaration conscientiously believing it to be true and knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath. Now we would ask
Yeah, Deputy Warden Vanderwall, you need to.
Deputy. Do you have the sheet there in front of you? Yes, okay, go for it.
I, Ron Van Wall, have been elected to the office of Deputy Warden in the municipality of the Corporation of the County of Frontenac. Do solemnly promise and declare that I will truly, faithfully, and impartially exercise this office to the best of my knowledge and ability. I have not received and will not receive any payment or reward or promise thereof for the exercise of this office in a biased, corrupt, or in any other improper manner. I will disclose any pecuniary or interest, direct or indirect, in accordance with the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to His King Majesty King Charles III. And I make this solemn promise and declaration, conscientious, believing it to be true, knowing that it is of the same force and effect as if made under oath.
Jeanette was just asking if I want the chain, but I think this is a perfect spot for it. Until it gets cold in here, and then I'll wear it because it's warm. I'd like to first of all thank Warden Vanderwall for his dedication, commitment, and hard work in the past year. Ron, I very much appreciate and have come to count on you for your common sense, your straightforward approach to our work, and your dedication to the township and the county. I'm glad to call you my friend and colleague all these years, so I thank you for everything that you've done. I'd also like to thank my fellow county councillors for selecting me as the 2024 warden. It's a vote of confidence and support from each of you, for which I'm very grateful, I think. I'm eager to get to work with all of you over the next year, representing every township in Frontenac County. I'd also like to congratulate Deputy Warden Vanderwall. You bring excellent qualifications, professional experience, and very recent experience and energy to the council. And I know you'll carry out the duty well, and I'm sure I'll have lots of work for you to do. You know, it's hard for me to believe sometimes that this is my 4th term as warden. I was privileged to wear the chain first back in 1996 when I was quite young, actually. During that time, I was the poster child for the Kingston Frontenac restructuring. Went all over the province talking about how we were doing. And then I had to actually take a rest after that. I didn't run the following year after the amalgamation actually started. And then again in 2016, after 2 decades hiatus, I'm not sure what I was thinking back then either. And again in 2020, and during that time, we had a little dispute with the city over payment of invoices, and the worst COVID pandemic happened. And it's the first time in my long history that I've ever had to declare a state of emergency, both for the county and for the municipality. So I guess you could say that I've been tested a few times. And why I want to do this again, sometimes we all need to wonder. There have been many changes navigated, many challenges overcome, and much accomplished by County Council over those years. Looking forward, I can see that there's much more to come. Last year, every member except Ron and I were newly elected to this council. And I can already see that those new ideas, passions, and energies will positively contribute to our shared future. But we have our work cut out for us. Last year, this council adopted a new strategic plan to guide our decisions through 2026. That plan includes 4 priorities. First, developing a regional approach to overcome infrastructure issues and to maximize development opportunities so residents can move around the county by road and water as easily and reliably as possible. Second, to further our progress towards sustainable economic growth and prosperity for residents so that everyone who contributes can enjoy and afford to enjoy living and visiting Frontenac now and for generations to come. Our planning and economic development team will continue to play a huge role in executing that vision. The Communal Service Initiative is just one example of how the county and this council is on track to distinguish itself on that file going forward. Third, to further quality of life through enhanced service delivery to residents. We'll do that by equipping and preparing Frontenac paramedics for the future as the population grows and gets older. We'll be expanding and building on the capacity and excellent reputation of Fairmont Home for caring for our most valuable residents. And we'll be advocating for and ensuring that meaningful social services and sustainable housing are available for residents now and in the future. Fourth, and almost finally, we'll be maximizing administrative leadership at county by ensuring continued responsible financial management. We'll be ensuring transparency and accountability in the work we do. And we'll continue to foster engagement and collaboration with all the townships. All this is a huge amount of work for us and for county staff, but we're already on our way to putting a nice big dent in it. I know that we'll make a great progress on all of these together in 2024. I'm glad at least we get a few months of your wise counsel and support, Kelly, since you're leaving us. But most immediately, the council will be selecting Frontenac County's next chief administrative officer. This is a critically important task for all of us and one we have to get right. But now, Kelly, it's not too late to change your mind. And if I could convince you, you know, over a drink or two, we could make that work. Hot cocoa, yes. For now, I want to thank you all again for the confidence in selecting me as this warden for this year. I will do my best, and Ron will be my backup if I can't do my best. Okay, now we need to get on with our agenda.
I
Moved
just
by-
wanted to say a few words. Congratulations, Fran. And I'm not as prepared as Fran is, obviously, but thank you for your confidence and support.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Leonard, resolved that the addendum for the December 20th, 2023 meeting of the Council of the County of Frontenac be approved.
Discussion, all those in favor? Okay, is there any disclosure, pecuniary interest, or general nature thereof of any item on today's agenda? Seeing none, we'll note that. Adoption of minutes.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Lichty, resolved that the minutes of the regular council meeting held November 15th, 2023 be adopted.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, resolved that the minutes of the special council meeting held November 23rd, 2023 be adopted.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Now we have a little presentation to make. And I have a plaque here, and I would like Louise Fregnito and Ron Van de Waal to come up. And Michelle Hanna. Okay. Let's see, how can we do this? Yeah, come on up here. First of all, I'd like to thank Ron Van de Waal and South Frontenac Louise Fregnito for allowing us to be here. One thing that the construction has done is put us out of our space. So fortunately, Township of South Frontenac has said that it's okay if you come to our space, but they didn't know that we would stay this long. And they didn't know that we wouldn't pay a lot of rent. But I'm sure the bill will be in the mail. But we want to thank you all so very much for your hospitality. And Jeanette has told me a number of times that without the help of the staff, we couldn't have done it. So thank you so much for all of that. And we have a plaque for you. And it's got a picture of all of us. I do think, I do think the darts will bounce off of it. It's kind of glass. But the plaque says, the County of Frontenac would graciously like to acknowledge that the Township of South Frontenac Council Chamber was home to Frontenac County Council and its committees during 22 and 2023. County Council would like to thank Township of South Frontenac staff and council for their generous hospitality and support during the renovation and reconstruction of the county administration building. And sincerely, thank you. There we go. We have one other little presentation. One of the things that we found is that the staff are great, but their coffee pots are limited. So we bought you a new coffee pot. So you can actually make 2 pots at a time.
All right.
Enjoy.
Duly noted, thank you.
After yous are gone, though, we won't need it.
But I'm more than happy to help, and we may be in the same position very shortly with our office expansion and looking to the county, see where they can help us possibly, so. I think that's just the right thing to do to help each other out. So thank you.
Exactly. So important. Thank you very much. Yeah. All right. Now we are going to have a motion to move into the committee of the whole.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Fowler, that council adjourn and meet as committee of the whole council with the deputy warden in the chair.
All those in favor? Carried.
Yeah, I know. Do you want your computer, Fran, or no? You're okay? Briefings. Mr. Kelly Pender.
Well, thank you very much. Welcome to our December meeting and all the best of the holiday season to everybody. And I'd just like to, first of all, congratulate Doom Warden, Frances Smith, on her election to the office, and look forward to working with you for at least part of next year. And a big thank you as always to past Warden Vanderwall. We traveled the world together and saw a lot of things and were in a lot of meetings. I appreciate all your help and support in 2023. Next, please. So as usual, I'll touch upon a couple of things on each slide, but please to go back if anybody wants further clarification. So first on the December schedule was a meeting that I didn't go to, and that was a tour of the new Terra facility with staff and the technical advisory committee, those that could make it. I believe there were 12 in attendance. I've been twice, so I gave up my seat to make sure there was enough room for everybody. But Joe led that tour, and we thanked the staff at New Terra for their cooperation. They've been extremely generous with their time for both Frontenac County and for the Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus and the EORN, who are looking at communal services. So we thank them for that. I've been appointed to the AMO Public Health Advisory Group, looking at voluntary mergers of public health in Ontario. So we've had several meetings with AMO over the past month and a half. And as you've probably noticed, our local public health is looking at a merger with Prince Edward Hastings and Leeds and Grenville, and that announcement was a week and a half ago. And the province and Public Health Alpha had a webinar last week on December 13th, to bring municipalities up to speed on where that's going. I'd also note that our December 19th OHT Finance and Resources meeting was canceled at the last minute. Next slide, please. On December the 14th, we had a special Eastern Ontario Wardens Caucus planning meeting held at our neighbors in Lennox and Addington. And it was a good 5 hours facilitated by our own Kevin Farrell and Meredith Stavely Watson, who many of you know, a former county employee. Just trying to wrap our heads around what 2023 looks like and what our advocacy is going to look like. So hearty thank you to Kevin for his leadership on that day and for herding 13 cats, hopefully onto one page. Next slide, please. But we fed them well. How's that? So in provincial matters, I just remind you that if your staff haven't looked at the Ontario Invasive Species Strategic Plan, that is something that affects a lot of rural Ontario. The invasive species can be restrictions for planning matters, and the province is looking for input on that. Next slide, please. In federal matters, Infrastructure Ontario is now accepting applications for planning and designing projects for rural transit. So we have forwarded that application off to both Southern Frontenac Community Services and Rural Frontenac Community Services. And there are webinars up and coming. Just note that that's for planning purposes, not for implementation. Next slide, please. So in terms of our administrative building projects, we were hoping to be into the new facility early in the new year, but there's still a number of delays in terms of supply chain. Most particular in the last week or so has been the supply of glass for the final installation. So we did a tour yesterday morning, our usual bi-weekly tour. Things are looking great. The Cataraqui Conservation is probably 98% done. Just a couple of small things left to do, including some glazing. The second floor of the old house is finished and has been cleaned and is ready for occupancy. And the main floor is largely complete. The front foyer is just about done. Last bit of tiling needs to be done. The countertops at the front counter and the final cleanup. The delay has been in receiving the glazing for several smaller projects throughout the building and finishing the electrical in the extension. So we think we're probably a month behind. There is a walkthrough tomorrow afternoon that we should have a better indication where we'll be. But when we're thinking we're going to be in January, it's probably going to be February.
Would like to inform you that the lease just ran out here. Obviously, you want that extended already?
The coffee pot was the 1 month extension, I believe. So just following up on that, just point out that, we're probably still going to be in flux. Stay tuned as to where we'll be located for various meetings. We are planning the first Frontenac Municipal Service Corporation meeting early in January. And the technical advisory committee appointed by this council will be essentially absorbed into the Municipal Service Corporation. And we'll be dealing with that at our January meeting. And we thank everybody for their support as we've been working through that, in particular the CAOs and treasurers and public works people that have been contributing to that. We'll be reporting back after the January meeting. Next slide, please. As usual, our HR department has been extremely busy throughout the year. We're at about 420 postings through to December the 11th. And that includes interviews in all areas at Fairmount and Frontenac paramedics. Continue to be busy with interest arbitration. In fact, we had our first day of interest arbitration with QP 2290 earlier in the month, and that will go to the arbitration panel shortly. Hopefully we'll get a decision at some point in early 2024. Just a reminder that we do regularly conduct 360 feedback for our senior leadership team and managers, frontline managers, and Barb McCullough and Deputy Chief Gowdy are our trained experts in that. They solicit the third-party feedback through an anonymous website and then deliver the feedback to the individuals. Barb is also a certified Myers-Briggs person, and she's able to provide feedback on that. And we use that from time to time as well as we're structuring our teams. Next slide, please. We had our staff service tea a couple weeks back. We had our 5, 10, 15, 20, and 25-year service to Frontenac residents, and we appreciate the service that our staff have provided, in particular through the pandemic and coming out of that. So big thank you to Susan and her staff and Emily and the assistant directors of care as they've delivered quality service to our residents. Next slide, please. So Fairmount residents have been busy with baking cookies and hanging Christmas decorations, and it's important to remind ourselves that this is their home and that we take our business seriously as making it feel as home-like as possible. So together with staff, there's been a whole lot of decorating going on, and my brief walk through yesterday, there's the place is looking very good. The next slide, please. And big thank you to the paramedics for their food drive and Fill the Ambulance, collected $982 and 2,431 pounds of food that'll be donated. And they also participated in the Santa Claus Parade. And just a reminder, Santa will be coming next Sunday night. Next slide, please. Many of you know Carolyn Murray Whitworth will be retiring at the end of the year after 18 years with the County of Frontenac Paramedics. And I can't say enough about Carolyn's quiet demeanor. She is our stats nerd, for lack of a better word. She keeps Gail and I fully up to date in terms of where the stats are and does all the reporting to the province. We wish Carolyn all the best in her retirement. And coming in just after we publish this, just like to also thank, and many of you know Charlene Godfrey, who is our GIS specialist. She's been 8 years with the county and was 8 years prior to that with Central Frontenac. And we wish Charlene all the best in her retirement going forward. Charlene is our resident expert in road naming and 911 addressing, and has worked hard with township staff on particular bylaws and process stuff. And we thank Charlene for her service and wish her all the best for a long and healthy retirement. Next slide, please. Community engagement, we're up about 13% over the same period last year. And a big part of that was our business awards. And there's two pictures on the screen. The bottom one is a business owner on Wolf Island that won the Accessibility Award. And we're just a wonderful family to meet at the award ceremony and at the warden's reception 2 weeks ago. So we thank everybody that participated in that. It's really important to get spread the word about our Frontenac businesses, and the business awards is a large part of that. And thank you to Richard and Debbie who organized the event and the day and all the balloting and voting and everything that happened that goes into that. Next slide, please. Beginning in November, we, and by we, I mean Matt and the great staff at Fairmount, launched a new recruitment campaign, and it's been quite a success. If you follow us on LinkedIn or Facebook or on Instagram, Matt has done a terrific job putting together the face of Fairmount and portraying, the good things about working at Fairmount. And we've seen a nice uptick in terms of our social media engagement as a result. And the staff that participated in that did a wonderful job as well. both in their speaking roles and giving useful content to Matt. So thank you to Matt, and thank you to staff at Fairmount, and my condolences to HR, who will be dealing with more applications hopefully. Next slide, please. Planning Department, two things of note: delegated authority for undisputed consents. As you know, the province has changed the rules in terms of response time. So we're doing our best working with the township staff and with the staff at South Frontenac. We're doing similar kinds of things, cooperating back and forth to make sure that undisputed consents happen in a timely manner so we can meet the, well, two important things. We meet the mandatory timelines, plus it gives more staff time to consider the more difficult ones. And finally, on the planning front, a big thank you to our good friends at the Queen's School of Urban and Regional Planning. I believe this was the third year in a row, Joe, the fourth. 3 out of the last 4 years that Queen's has selected Frontenac to host their master's students in doing planning projects for us. You may remember the waterfront property and looking at the community planning permit system from last year. They also looked at our natural heritage policies, and this year the focus was on Marysville, and they conducted 2 public workshops and got feedback on the community, and they presented that to Frontenac Islands Township Council on Monday. And we thank our friends at Queen's. We look forward to working with them in the future. And I think the thing that this is not just good for Frontenac County. We get valuable research going forward, but it exposes students to real world problems, which I think is invaluable, particularly at the master's level. These are senior students that will be heading into the work world early in 2024 with some valuable experience gained in terms of public engagement and doing research and making presentations. Next slide, please. Finally, we continue to receive a number of applications, but we are down a little bit because of the time of year. November and December are typically lower points in the year, but the total number of applications processed for the three townships was 108, which was approximately 75% of the 2022 total. Next slide, please. So big thank you to our friends at the Trans-Canada Trail, the LNA Ridge Runners, and the Frontenac ATV Club, who helped us with the new bridge on the KMP Trail. And bridges are expensive parts of the infrastructure, and we appreciate the support of community groups as we repair and replace bridges. And the grand opening was last Friday. Next slide, please. And finally, I invite you to send the link to any businesses you know for our business survey for 2023. This is the 3rd year or 4th year, Richard? 4th year? I'm losing track with COVID. 6th? 6th for our business survey. And the nice part about surveys is it begins to show trends, and it's really important that we get good, honest feedback in terms of what makes Frontenac a good place to live, work, and play, and what things we're doing well, what things we could improve upon. So please feel free to share the link and to invite any businesses to participate. And it closes, opens on December the 20th and closes on January the 31st. So with that, Deputy Warden, if there's any questions.
Any questions from anyone from council? The only one I had was the public health merger. Does it water down our local voice, or do we still have? Is it a done deal? I don't know who wants to answer that. Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Thank you. No, it's just starting exploratory with the 3 boards currently. And we'll be meeting tomorrow on that in Belleville, making sure that it isn't going to be perceived as an acquisition, more of a merger. approach, and there has to be a buy-in all the way. So we're focusing towards governance and what we can do to smooth transition if it's a decision by each of the boards to move forward. So it's still at the early stage, and that said, we're on a tight timeline that for submitting business case because the province is ready to pay for the transition that should we move forward on it. So I expect quite a few more little meetings over the next few months. And by March, we'll certainly have it clear whether or not we move forward towards the group of 3.
Thing I'd add is that my role as part of the AMO group is to make sure that the municipal perspective is respected as part of this. And as always, AMO's position is that, there's safer pay and that there be sufficient representation for municipalities to make decisions.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none? Thank you. Then we will move to Committee of Management of Fairmount Home.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that Committee of the Whole Council adjourn and meet as Committee of Management of Fairmount Home with the Deputy Warden in the chair.
All in favor? Carrie? You have the Fairmount Home Quarterly Update. Activity report is for information purposes only, but if anybody has any questions out of it, Susan would be more than happy to answer them. Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Okay, just a quick question that when you're referring to the 5 critical incidents that occurred, 3 of them in your report that were alleged resident to resident abuse. Has there been any interventions that we should be made aware of that can help to minimize that? It seems rather high.
Staff do interventions on a daily basis. These are more than likely, these are incidents when the residents were alone, for example, in a room together. So certainly staff do everything they can on a daily basis. Yes.
The reason I ask is when we are looking further down the road at any activities for rebuilding or expanding on Fairmont, one of the points that I had made is there may be a need for a specialized area in that, because that is a reality of long-term care, that there are some aggressive behaviors in that. And if there's any way that is best practices, we need to look at it for the protection of all.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions for Susan? None at this time. We also have the Corporate Services 2023 Fairmount Home Accounts Receivable Write-Offs.
Moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Leonard. Resolved that Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services 2023 Fairmount Home Accounts Receivable Write-Offs Report, and further that Council authorize the Treasurer to write off accounts totaling $4,034.67.
Questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carry.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Lichty, that Committee of Management of Fairmount Home adjourn and revert back to Committee of the Whole Council.
All in favor? Carried. Recommended reports from the Chief Administrative Officer.
Moved by Councillor Leonard, seconded by Councillor Gowdy. Resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2023 Canada Community Build Fund Distribution Bylaw Report, and further that the clerk be directed to bring forward a bylaw to authorize the distribution of the Canada Community Building Fund allocation to the townships for 2023.
Questions or comments? Councillor Greenwood Spears.
Just wondering on the figures for Frontenac Islands, and I see it's not being transferred over in 2023. I just wondered what the parameter was about that, because I'm new in this role.
Mr.
If I may clarify, is that the table on page 1, which is related? So, okay, so that's for the claims-based community improvement plans. So basically, as the township administers the plan, it's eligible for partial reimbursement for the county from the county. Each township had 70,000. So it's really based to the work being done at those local CIPs. So if nothing came through in 23, nothing was reimbursed in 23. So some people, I think Central Frontenac had theirs spent by 2014. Other people taking a little longer. So basically that's just showing the history of the disbursements of that program.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Seeing none, all in favor? Carry.
Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Greenwood Spears, resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2024 tax ratios and tax rate reductions report. And further, that council consider a bylaw introduced later in the meeting to confirm the 2024 tax ratios and tax rate.
Questions? All in favor? Carry.
Moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Warden Smith. Be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac receive the Corporate Services Annual Accessibility Status Report. Attached to this report is Appendix A. And further, that in accordance with Ontario Regulation 9111, Integrated Accessibility Standards, Section 4.3, that a copy of this Annual Accessibility Status Report be posted to the County of Frontenac website. And further, that in accordance with Ontario Regulation 9111, sections 3.1 and 3.2, that a copy of the annual accessibility status report be forwarded to the Frontenac lower tiers for posting on their respective websites.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carry.
Moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Leonard, resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac accept the Corporate Services 2024 tax rate report, and further that council consider a bylaw introduced later in the meeting to establish the 2024 tax rates.
Any questions? All in favor? Carry. Information reports from the Chief Administrative Officer. Anybody have any questions on either of those reports? Okay. You have a motion then?
So for the report of the Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee, which is the next recommendation, that's moved by Councillor Gowdy and seconded by Councillor Saunders, that the report received from the Planning and Economic Advisory Committee be received and adopted.
Any questions or comments? All in favor? Carry.
So the next is return to council. That's moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Smith, that council revert from committee of the whole council to council.
All in favor? Carry.
Okay, we are at adoption of the report of the Committee of the Whole.
Moved by Councillor Lichty, seconded by Deputy Warden Vandewaal, that the report of the Committee of the Whole Council be adopted and that the necessary actions or bylaws be enacted.
Discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Next, we have notice of motions. A couple of them.
So the invitation to the Eastern Ontario Trails Alliance is moved by Councillor Fowler, seconded by Councillor Gowdy. And with your permission, Warden Smith, I'll just skip down to the resolve clause, which is therefore be it resolved that the Council of the County of Frontenac invites Cindy Cassidy, General Manager of the EOTA, for the purpose of doing a presentation at a future meeting and answer any questions council may have.
So notice of motion, do we discuss this? Okay, so it is open for discussion. Any questions or comments? Seeing none. All those in favor? Carried.
The next notice Motion is return on investment report for the KMP Trail. That is moved by Councillor Greenwood Spears, seconded by Councillor Fowler. And again, I will just go down to the resolve clause. Therefore, be it resolved that staff be directed to bring forward a return on investment report for the KMP Trail.
Comments? Questions? Ron?
I don't want to support this resolution. I think it would be very hard. And I don't feel money well spent for somebody to go through this exercise to try to find out what a return on investment is of something that's so tangible as the trail. So I can't support spending the money on this.
And I guess the question is, did we budget to spend money on it? I don't think we did. Any other questions? Fred and then Jerry? Oh, put your microphone on, Fred.
Start over. I'm looking at the County of Frontenac KP Trail Management Plan, October 2021. I'm looking at the second page, third paragraph down. It says the KP Trail is a good investment. And it says in a cost benefit analysis was estimated that for each dollar spent on the trails, nearly $3 were realized in reducing health care costs by the trail users. So my question is, this says that there has been a cost benefit analysis done. And I'm just wondering if that report is available, if we need it, or if it has been completed.
I can see if I can find the source of that. That wasn't a cost benefit analysis of our trail. That was a cost benefit analysis of trail use in Ontario.
Just one comment. It further goes on, says it'll help benefit people physically.
I think if you ask any of the walkers, they will tell you it benefits them. And unless we're going to stop and take a poll of people that are using it to ask them what they feel the cost benefit is to them physically, it's a lot of information and a lot of hours.
Yeah, from our meeting that we had regarding the Verona ATV Club making their request a month or so back, there was quite a few people in the Harrowsmith area that were really in favor in using that trail. And that was backed up by the Trans-Canada Trail Committee too.
Right. Jerry?
Yeah, I thought about this and I actually responded to Judy originally when she suggested I may like the second of this. I don't believe we're budgeted for it. It's a lot of work. We know based on the operational budget discussions that our planning staff is really pushed to the limits for time. So, and then if we get the result, you know, how do we interpret it? So I can't support this either.
The reason I brought this forward is because the county has invested a lot of money into the trail, and I think that the taxpayers are entitled to see that there has been some sort of return of investment demonstrated and on record. And yes, it may cost some time and effort, but that was built in back in 2009 when the trail was conceived and in the master plan that there was going to be a tracking and that. So while we continue to put a lot of money into it and expanding our partnership, I think having a documentation of the return on investment particular to our trail, not just a generalization of walking on trails or enjoying the time, would be good for our taxpayers that are footing the bill for.
No other discussion? All right. All those in favor?
Like a recorded vote, please.
Okay. That's Jeanette's job.
Councillor Fowler, how do you vote? Councillor Gowdy?
Against.
Counselor Greenwood Spears,
In favor.
Counselor Leonard,
Against.
Counselor Lichty. Counselor Saunders,
Against.
Warden Smith,
No.
and Deputy Warden Vanderwall.
No.
So that is lost on a vote of 8-1.
All right, moving on. Options for improved paramedic services on Wolf Island.
Moved by Counselor Saunders, seconded by Counselor Greenwood Spears. And again, I will just go down to the resolve clause. Now therefore be it resolved, the County of Frontenac requests that the project consultant provide an overview of the current paramedic service delivery on Wolf Island and options for improved service delivery for residents.
Okay, open for discussion. Ron. Oh, sorry, Bill first.
Thank you, Warden. So I want to provide a little bit of background on this, if that's okay.
Sure.
As you will remember, during the budget deliberations, staff brought forward recommendations on, I think, 3 recommendations on how to address the issues associated with paramedic services. Council supported the option which did not continue to support, double negative there, sorry, did not continue to support the placement of a paramedic station on Wolf Island. Subsequent to that, and there was a healthy discussion about that. Subsequent to that, we had a group from Wolf Island representing the EMS committee come and make a presentation to us around citizens' concerns and some research they had done on the topic. During that discussion, it was then they used Toronto Islands as an example. During that discussion, they noted that in the Toronto Islands, whenever a ambulance is dispatched from the island, another ambulance is dispatched over to the islands. So there's always, other than short delays, an ambulance on the island. That led to a question, I believe, or a suggestion that came forward. Could we look at that as an option on Wolf Island? In discussing that with the CAO, the conclusion was that that would be a budget issue. And that would, since we're well into the budget, or actually have basically approved the budget, it would be inappropriate to bring that forward. So as an alternative, we identified this ongoing survey with the support of the CAO and feel that this motion will keep the issue alive and allow us to do a more detailed study going forward as to the need for that paramedic service on Wolf Island.
Okay, Ron.
I'm not opposed to the motion. I'm concerned and opposed to the word improved in the motion. I don't, that is implying something that we don't know. We don't know if the service is any better, any worse. We don't know any of those things. So by saying improved service, you're implying something, and that's my only concern about that motion. So I don't know if I'm allowed to say that I would like that word taken out and get a seconder or not, or how do you want me to do that?
So that would be a motion to amend.
I would like to amend that the word improved be taken out. The rest of it I have no issue with.
What you're asking for is and options for delivery, for service delivery for residents.
Right. So I have no problem with looking at the service delivery review when they're doing the whole thing and the options for it. But by saying improved, you're implying that it either was good or not good or whatever. And we don't know that until they look at the service review.
So it'd be like looking at a brand new picture and how they would provide service.
You just require a seconder for that motion?
Okay, seconder. Jerry? Okay, all those in favor of the amendment first, and that is to take out the improved. Okay, opposed? Carried. So that makes the initial motion.
So the motion will now read, now therefore the County of Frontenac requests that the project consultant provide an overview of the current paramedic service delivery on Wolf Island and options for service delivery for residents.
Okay, all those in favor? Carried. All right, good. Any giving of notice of motions? Seeing none, Communications. There's lots of it. No questions or comments on any of those? Other business. Consideration of council appointments to the administration committee. It's made up of 4 members, the warden and the deputy warden, and we need 2 members of council from the remaining 2 member municipalities. So we have South Frontenac and Central Frontenac. So we need Islands and North. Who would like to do it? Judy and Jerry? Okay. No one else is vying for the job? So we need a motion, I believe.
So moved by Councillor Gowdy, seconded by Councillor Saunders, that Councillors Greenwood, Spears and Lichty be appointed to the Administration Committee for 2024.
Okay, discussion? All those in favor? Carried. We are at bylaws, and we did ask Natalie to come and show us how to use the new program for our pay stubs, Star Garden. Sounds so pretty. But she's not coming till 11. Does anybody else know how to use Star Garden, like Kevin over there? So maybe if Natalie doesn't come, we also have some goodies and refreshments. So let's do the bylaws first, and then we'll deal with what comes next.
So moved by Councillor Saunders and seconded by Councillor Gowdy, resolved that leave be given to the mover to introduce bylaws A through G that have been circulated to all members of County Council, and that bylaws A through G be read a first and second time.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried.
Moved by Councillor Saunders, seconded by Councillor Gowdy, that bylaws A through E and G be read a third time, signed, sealed, and finally passed.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Carried. Okay, so we can adjourn. Before we adjourn, I want to take a minute that I forgot to say is Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to each and every one of you. We deserve a holiday, so let's take it. Let's shut off our phones. Let's not talk to staff or send any emails to staff over the holiday, and be happy and safe and put your arms around your loved ones. So on that note, we're going to adjourn and we're going to have some goodies. And if Kevin can show us Star Garden, so be it. But if you can't, if you want to stay around, Natalie will be here to show us how to get into it and take a look at our pay stubs that we haven't looked at for a while. All right.
So moved by Councillor Leonard and seconded by Councillor Fowler, that the meeting hereby adjourn at 10:36 a.m.
All those in favor? Carried.
Good meeting. That's almost as quick as our meeting was. Well, it started at 9:30.
Kelly or Fran? Barb. Natalie is actually just parking and will be right out. Or right in, I should say.